The massive ship UES Defiance moved slowly through space toward the bright star ahead. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge and watched the view screen show their new home system. Behind him, 50,000 people slept in the cold sleep pods waiting to wake up on a new world. They had traveled for 12 years from Earth to reach this place called Kepler 442. Dr. Lisa Campbell worked at her station checking the readings from the planet they wanted to make their home. She had been watching strange energy patterns for the past week but could not figure out what they meant. The patterns were too organized to be natural but too different from human technology to understand. "Captain," Lisa said, turning from her screen, "I am getting those weird readings again from the fourth planet. Something big is down there, but it does not match anything in our databases." Jake walked over to look at her screen. Numbers and graphs showed energy spikes that made no sense. Could it be some kind of natural phenomenon we have never seen before? Maybe, but look at these patterns. Lisa pointed to a series of regular pulses. This looks like it was made by someone, not something Lieutenant Commander Ryan Webb looked up from the weapons station. "Sir, if there is someone already living on our target planet, we might have a problem. Our colonists are counting on that world." Jake nodded. They had spent everything Earth had left to build this colony ship. There was no going back and no other choice. "Keep monitoring those signals. If someone is home, we will have to introduce ourselves." The next few hours passed quietly as the Defiance moved deeper into the system. Lisa continued watching her instruments while the rest of the bridge crew prepared for the normal routine of approaching a new world. They had done this dance many times in training, but never for real. Then everything changed. Space around the Defiance suddenly filled with massive ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. Lisa screamed as her instruments went crazy with readings she had never seen before. Ryan jumped to his weapons but found his systems locked out by some invisible force. The ships surrounding them were enormous. Each one was at least 10 times bigger than the Defiance and covered in strange metals that seemed to shift and change color. Weapons that looked like they could destroy planets pointed at the human ship from every direction. "All stop," Jake ordered, but the ship had already stopped moving on its own. Something was controlling their engines from outside. A voice filled the bridge speaking perfect English, but with sounds no human throat could make. "Human vessel, you will prepare for boarding. Resistance will result in immediate destruction." The main screen flickered and showed the inside of one of the alien ships. A creature that looked like a giant lizard wearing metal armor stood before what appeared to be a command center. Its eyes were cold and black, and when it spoke, rows of sharp teeth showed. "I am Admiral Zex Thul of the Vorthak Empire speaking, for the Hegemony Council. You humans have been classified as a dangerous species that threatens the stability of this galaxy." Jake stepped forward, trying to keep his voice steady. "I am Captain Morrison of the Earth colony ship Defiance. We are peaceful colonists looking for a new home. We mean no harm to anyone." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter but held no humor. "Your species has been studied for over 200 of your years. We have watched you fight wars that should have been impossible to win. We have seen you refuse to surrender even when facing certain death. We have observed your chaotic and unpredictable behavior. Those are not crimes," Jake said. "Those are just human traits. To us, they are defects that must be corrected." Admiral Zexthul continued, "The Hegemony Council has conquered 847 worlds. Every species we have encountered has accepted the logic of surrender when facing superior force. Humans do not. This makes you a threat to galactic peace." Lisa whispered. "Jake, there are hundreds of their ships out there. Our sensors show weapons that could turn planets into dust. We cannot fight this." The Admiral heard her somehow, and his teeth showed again. "Your scientist speaks truth. You face the combined fleets of 12 species, each more advanced than your own. We offer you a choice that no other species has been given, because we recognize your potential value if properly controlled." Ryan moved closer to Jake. "What kind of choice?" "Submit to genetic modification that will remove your aggressive and chaotic tendencies. Accept cultural reconditioning that will teach you to think logically and follow proper galactic protocols. Do this and your species will be allowed to exist as productive members of galactic society. And if we refuse?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. Then you will be eliminated completely. Every human in this system and every human still, living on your dying homeworld. Your species will become nothing more than a historical footnote about the dangers of allowing chaotic evolution to continue unchecked. The bridge fell silent. 50,000 people sleeping below them had no idea their entire species was about to be judged. Jake looked around at his crew and saw the same mix of fear and anger he felt. How long do we have to decide? 72 hours, the Admiral replied. Use this time to contact your homeworld and inform them of our decision. Any attempt to send warnings or call for military assistance will result in immediate destruction. Any attempt to leave this system will result in immediate destruction. Any attempt to resist our inspection teams will result in immediate destruction. The screen went dark, leaving the bridge in emergency lighting. Outside the windows, the alien ships waited like patient predators. Lisa broke the silence. Jake, they are right about one thing. Humans do fight impossible battles, but we also sometimes win them. Ryan checked his weapons again and found them still locked. Not against odds like this. We are one ship against hundreds. Our weapons cannot even scratch their hulls. Jake walked back to his command chair and sat down. In 3 days, his species might cease to exist. But something inside him refused to accept that fate. Maybe the aliens were right about humans being different. Maybe that difference was exactly what they needed right now. Get me a channel to the senior staff, he said, and wake up Colonel Stone and Dr. Campbell and Chief Turner. We have work to do. The senior staff meeting room buzzed with quiet conversations as the ship's leaders tried to process what they had just learned. Colonel Rachel Stone sat with her arms crossed, looking like she wanted to punch something. Chief Engineer Alex Turner stared at technical readouts of the alien ships with a frown that deepened every few seconds. Dr. Lisa Campbell pulled up everything the ship's computers had recorded about the alien technology. Jake entered the room and everyone fell silent. He had called this meeting 6 hours after the alien ultimatum, and nobody had slept since then. Dark circles under every pair of eyes showed the stress they all felt. Options, Jake said, sitting down at the head of the table. We could surrender, said Commander Patricia Hayes, the ship's diplomatic officer. Accept their terms and hope they keep their word about letting us live. Colonel Stone made a disgusted sound. Live as what? They want to cut out everything that makes us human. That's not living, that's just existing as their pets. It beats being dead, Patricia replied. Does it? Rachel stood up and began pacing. I have studied every war humans ever fought. The ones we remember are not the ones where we gave up to save lives. They are the ones where we chose to die free rather than live as slaves. Alex Turner looked up from his technical pad. The problem is we cannot fight them with conventional weapons. Look at these readings. He put his data on the main screen. Their shields could stop our most powerful missiles like they were thrown rocks. Their weapons could destroy this entire ship with one shot. Lisa studied the energy patterns she had been tracking. But look at this. She highlighted sections of the alien power signatures. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it follows very rigid patterns. Everything is controlled by central systems that operate on pure logic networks. So, Jake asked, they have made themselves dependent on technology that cannot adapt quickly to unexpected situations. Our computers can learn and change, but theirs seem to follow exact programs that never vary. Rachel stopped pacing and looked at Lisa with interest. You mean they have forgotten how to think creatively? Exactly. When you have overwhelming superiority, for hundreds of years you stop needing to innovate. You just use the same methods that always work. Alex suddenly sat up straighter. That gives me an idea, but nobody's going to like it. All eyes turned to him. He took a deep breath before continuing. Our experimental FTL drives were never fully tested before we left Earth. The quantum field generators could be overloaded in a specific sequence to create a cascade effect. What would that do? Jake asked. It would disrupt any technology within several million kilometers that depends on quantum field manipulation. Based on these readings that includes all of their ships, Patricia looked hopeful for the first time. That sounds like exactly what we need. There is a catch, Alex continued. The overload would also destroy our ship and everyone on it. We would win, but we would not live to enjoy the victory. The room fell quiet again. Outside, they could see the alien ships waiting patiently for their answer. Rachel broke the silence. There might be another way. She pulled up her own data showing the alien ship formations and communication patterns. I have been monitoring their transmissions. They talk about us like we are some kind of puzzle they cannot solve. What do you mean? Jake asked. They keep saying humans are unpredictable and chaotic, but they seem fascinated by that rather than just afraid. One of their science officers called us the first species they have encountered that gets stronger when facing impossible odds instead of weaker. Lisa nodded. That matches what I am seeing in their scanning patterns. They are not just preparing to destroy us. They are studying us like we are some kind of new discovery. So they are curious about us, Patricia said. How does that help? Rachel smiled for the first time since the crisis began. Because curious enemies make mistakes that afraid enemies do. Not. They will want to examine us up close before they decide our fate. Alex caught on first. You want us to pretend to surrender so they will send inspection teams aboard. More than that, Rachel continued. I want us to actually surrender but turn the surrender itself into an attack. While they are examining us, we examine them. While they think they are in control, we learn everything we can about their technology and tactics. Jake studied the tactical display. That's incredibly dangerous. If they discover what we are really doing, then we use Alex's quantum cascade as our backup plan. Rachel finished. But maybe if we learn enough about them, we can find a way to win without dying in the process. Lisa was already running calculations on her computer. It could work. During a formal surrender, they would follow standard protocols. That means inspection teams on our ship and technical exchanges to evaluate our capabilities, which would give us access to their people and their technology. Alex added, I could learn how their systems work while pretending to cooperate with their technicians. Patricia looked worried. But we would be putting our entire population at risk. 50,000 people, including children and families. Jake stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the alien fleet. Those 50,000 people are already at risk. In 66 hours, they will either be dead or turned into something that is not human anymore. At least this way we give them a chance to remain themselves. He turned back to face his officers. But I will not order anyone to take this risk. It has to be voluntary. Rachel stepped forward. Sir, I volunteer my Marines for the infiltration mission. Alex nodded. My engineering teams will volunteer to work with their technicians. Lisa joined them. My science staff can handle the technology analysis. Patricia hesitated, then stood as well. My diplomatic team can manage the surrender negotiations. Jake felt something he had not experienced since the aliens appeared. Hope. Not much, but enough to build a plan around. All right, here is what we do, he said. We accept their surrender terms, but we make the process as slow and complicated as possible. We tell them humans have complex cultural and biological requirements that need special handling. That will give us time to position our people, Rachel agreed. Lisa, you work with their science teams and learn everything you can about their technology. Look for weaknesses or ways to disrupt their systems. Alex, you coordinate with their engineers and see if you can modify our quantum cascade to be more selective. Maybe we can disable their ships without destroying ourselves. Rachel, you get your people aboard their vessels however you can. Marines disguised as technical advisors or cultural liaisons. Map their ships and identify critical systems. Patricia, you handle the actual negotiations. Keep them talking and keep them confident that they are in control. Jake looked around the room at faces that showed determination instead of despair. We have 66 hours to do the impossible. Questions? Rachel raised her hand. What do we tell the colonists? The truth. Jake replied, that we are going to try something that has never been attempted before, that we might fail, but we will not go quietly. Alex asked, what if their technology is so advanced we cannot understand it? Then, we improvise, Lisa answered. Humans are good at that. Patricia had the final question. What if this plan works but they call for reinforcements? Jake smiled grimly. Then we hope the rest of the galaxy is ready to learn what humans are really capable of. The meeting broke up with everyone heading to their stations. Outside the alien Ships continued their patient vigil, unaware that their prisoners were planning the most audacious escape attempt in human history. The signal came at exactly 0300 ship time, when most of the alien inspection teams were resting in their assigned quarters. It was not a radio transmission or computer command, but something much more human. Helen Brooks began singing an Old Earth song in the civilian areas, and within minutes the melody spread throughout the ship. To the aliens, it sounded like humans comforting themselves with primitive music during a stressful time. They had observed similar behavior in other species facing integration. What they did not realize was that different verses of the song contained specific instructions that every human aboard had memorized during their supposed orientation sessions. Colonel, Rachel Stone heard the third verse and smiled grimly. That was her cue. She moved through the corridors of the Defiance toward the alien quarters with casual confidence that suggested she belonged exactly where she was. Behind her, 6 Marines dressed as maintenance workers carried what appeared to be standard repair equipment. The Serpentine Dominion military analyst Seth was reviewing human combat data when Rachel knocked politely on his door. "Analyst Seth," she said. When he answered, "We have detected a small malfunction in the environmental systems near Sioux, your quarters. May we check the connections?" Seth's forked tongue flickered with mild annoyance, but he stepped aside. "Proceed quickly. I have important work to complete." Rachel and her team entered the room and immediately went to work on what looked like routine maintenance. What they actually did was place tiny devices that Danny Rodriguez had built from civilian electronics into the alien communication systems. Within minutes, they had access to every transmission Seth sent or received. Similar scenes played out across the ship as human maintenance crews gained access to alien equipment under perfectly reasonable pretexts. Dr. Lisa Campbell's science teams installed monitoring devices in alien computers while pretending to provide additional data about human biology. Alex Turner's engineers placed sabotage programs in alien technical systems while appearing to help with integration planning. But the real action was happening aboard the alien ships themselves, where Rachel's Marines had been positioned over the past 2 days as cultural liaisons and technical advisors. Sergeant Kevin Brooks had spent 48 hours aboard the Vorthak flagship learning their security procedures while pretending to help them understand human military organization. Now he moved through corridors he had mapped in detail, carrying what appeared to be reports for Admiral Zexthol, but were actually improvised explosives built from alien materials. Corporal Amy Davis worked her way through the mechanoid vessels' computer core while supposedly helping them analyze human technology. Her real mission was to plant a virus that Lisa Campbell had designed using chaos mathematics principles that alien logical systems could not process. Private Jake Wilson had been assigned to the Zephyrian ship's engineering section, where he spent 2 days asking seemingly innocent questions about their propulsion systems. Now he knew exactly which components to sabotage to cause maximum disruption with minimal damage. The aliens had become comfortable with human presence aboard their ships. The humans asked good questions and seemed genuinely interested in learning about superior alien technology. They were exactly what conquered species should be: curious but harmless. This confidence was their first mistake. At precisely 0315 ship time, every human operative aboard the alien fleet struck simultaneously. Kevin Brooks placed his improvised charges on critical power junctions throughout the Vorthak flagship. Amy Davis activated her chaos virus in the mechanoid computer systems. Jake Wilson began the cascade failure sequence in the Zephyrian drive systems. Across 20 different alien vessels, human saboteurs who had spent 2 days learning their targets began the most coordinated surprise attack in human history. They used alien tools against alien systems and alien confidence against alien security. But the masterpiece was happening aboard the Defiance itself. Danny Rodriguez had spent 60 hours turning the colony ship's life support systems into the galaxy's largest improvised weapon. Every air vent became a delivery system for sedative compounds extracted from the ship's medical supplies. Every power conduit became a source of electromagnetic pulses that could disrupt alien equipment. Every corridor became a trap waiting to be sprung. Helen Brooks coordinated 50,000 civilian colonists in an operation that looked like chaos, but followed a plan more complex than anything the aliens had ever encountered. Families with children created distractions in key locations. Engineers and technicians disabled alien scanning equipment. Even the ship's cooks contributed by preparing meals laced with compounds that would make alien digestive systems very uncomfortable. The aliens realized something was wrong when their communication systems began failing across the entire fleet. Admiral Zexthul tried to contact his ships but found only static and error messages. Technical analyst Vex 9 discovered that his computer systems were displaying nonsensical data that changed every time he tried to correct it. Military analyst Seth found his security monitors showing impossible readings that made no logical sense. "What is happening?" Admiral Zexthul demanded as his bridge crew struggled with failing systems. "Unknown, sir," replied his communications officer. "Our networks are experiencing cascade failures, but the source appears to be everywhere at once." That was when Captain Jake Morrison made his move. He had spent 3 days pretending to be a defeated colony commander, accepting the inevitable fate of his species. Now he walked onto his own bridge and took command of a situation the aliens were just beginning to understand. "Admiral Zexthul," Jake said, activating the ship-wide communication system. "I believe you wanted to study human behavior under extreme circumstances." The Admiral's reptilian features twisted with rage as he realized what was happening. "Impossible. Your species lacks the technology to threaten us." "You are absolutely right," Jake replied calmly. "We do lack that technology, so we used yours instead." Across the alien fleet, systems that had operated flawlessly for centuries began shutting down or producing completely random results. Ships that had conquered hundreds of worlds found themselves unable to target their weapons or coordinate their movements. Computer networks that had processed the surrender of entire species crashed when confronted with programs designed by creatures who viewed failure as just another form of data. But Jake Morrison was not finished. While his people had been learning alien technology, he had been studying alien psychology. He had realized that humanity's greatest weapon was not their adaptability or their refusal to surrender. It was their ability to change the rules of the game itself. "Admiral," Jake continued, "you said we were chaotic and unpredictable. You were right, but you made one critical error in your analysis." "What error?" Zexthul snarled while his technicians tried desperately to restore their systems. "You assumed that chaos was a weakness to be corrected. Actually, it is a strength to be applied. For 3 days you have been trying to understand how humans think. Now you get to experience it firsthand." Jake activated the final phase of their plan. Dr. Lisa Campbell had spent the past 72 hours building something the galaxy had never seen before. It was not a weapon or a shield, or even a traditional piece of technology. It was a translator that worked in reverse. Instead of converting alien thoughts into human language, it began broadcasting human thoughts directly into alien computer networks. Suddenly, every alien ship in the fleet was trying to process the dreams and memories and random ideas of 50,000 human colonists. For creatures who had spent millennia thinking in perfect logical patterns, the experience was overwhelming. Their computers crashed, their weapon systems shut down, their navigation became completely unreliable. Most importantly, their absolute confidence in their own superiority cracked like glass hitting concrete. Admiral Zexthul found himself trapped aboard a human ship surrounded by creatures who had just demonstrated that superior technology meant nothing when facing opponents who refused to play by established rules. "This is impossible," he repeated. "Your species cannot defeat us. We have superior numbers, superior weapons, superior technology." Jake Morrison smiled for the first time in 3 days. "Admiral, you still do not understand. We are not trying to defeat you. We are trying to teach you." The aliens were about to learn the most important lesson in human history, that victory was not about being stronger than your enemies, but about being more creative than they thought possible. Admiral Zexthul sat in what had once been his command chair aboard his own flagship, but was now effectively a prison. Around him, his crew worked frantically to restore systems that seemed to repair themselves, only to fail again in completely different ways. The human chaos virus had infected every network, turning their most advanced computers into unpredictable puzzles. "Status report," he demanded for the 100th time in 6 hours. His communications officer looked up with exhaustion in his large black eyes. "Sir, our weapons are operational, but they target randomly. Navigation works but sends us in circles. Life support functions normally, except it occasionally plays what appear to be human children singing. And the rest of the fleet, similar problems across all vessels. The mechanoid ships report their logical matrices are producing poetry. The Zephyrian vessels are trying to dance instead of maintaining formation. Even our most basic systems seem to have developed what humans call imagination." Zexthul wanted to order the complete destruction of the human ship, but found that his weapons would not lock onto it. Every time his targeting systems acquired the defiance, they instead focused on empty space or occasionally on his own ships. It was as if the very concept of attacking humans had become impossible for his technology to process. A soft chime announced an incoming transmission. The main screen flickered to life, showing Captain Jake Morrison sitting calmly in his command chair surrounded by his crew. Behind them, the human colonists could be seen going about normal activities as if nothing unusual had happened. "Admiral," Jake said with what appeared to be genuine respect, "I hope your crew is not too uncomfortable. We tried to make the system failures as inconvenient as possible without being dangerous." "This is an act of war," Zexthul snarled. "You have attacked the Hegemony Council with illegal weapons." "Actually, we used your own weapons against you," Jake corrected, "and we have not hurt anyone. Your ships are disabled, but your crews are perfectly safe. In fact, Dr. Campbell has been working with your medical teams to make sure everyone stays healthy during this transition period." The screen split to show Dr. Lisa Campbell working alongside several alien scientists in what appeared to be a collaborative research project. She looked up and smiled. "Admiral, we have made some fascinating discoveries. Your technology is incredibly sophisticated, but it has been designed to prevent exactly the kind of creative adaptation that makes systems truly robust." Technical analyst Vex 9 appeared on screen looking more confused than hostile. "Captain Morrison, your people have helped us solve computational problems that have puzzled us for decades. The chaos algorithms your Dr. Campbell introduced have improved our processing efficiency by 37%. When they are not crashing, our systems completely," muttered Zexthul. Jake leaned forward with an expression of genuine interest. "Admiral, that is exactly what we wanted to discuss with you. Your people are incredibly intelligent and your technology is more advanced than anything we ever imagined. But you have forgotten something important." "What have we forgotten?" "How to fail successfully," Jake replied. "Every other species you conquered was trying to avoid failure. Humans use failure as a learning tool. When our plans do not work, we do not just try the same thing harder. We try something completely different." Colonel Rachel Stone appeared on the transmission from what looked like the alien armory. "Admiral, your weapons are beautifully designed, but they only work in predictable situations. When we introduced unpredictability into your targeting systems, they did not adapt. They just kept trying the same solutions over and over." "Because that is logical behavior," Zexthul protested. "You do not change successful systems." "But you do change unsuccessful ones," Rachel replied. "And the moment we made your successful systems unsuccessful, you needed the ability to adapt quickly. Since your systems were not designed for that kind of flexibility, they became more of a problem than a solution." Chief Engineer Alex Turner joined the conversation from what appeared to be an alien engineering section. "Admiral, your people have been teaching my teams about quantum field manipulation. In return, we have been showing them some human engineering principles. The combination is producing some remarkable results." The screen showed hybrid technology that neither species could have created alone. Human creativity combined with alien knowledge was producing innovations that seemed almost magical. Weapons that could choose their own targets based on moral considerations. Shields that adapted to protect whatever they deemed most valuable. Computers that could dream up solutions to problems their programmers had never imagined. "This is impossible," Zexthul said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Admiral," Jake said gently, 3 days ago you told us that humans were unpredictable and chaotic, and that these were flaws to be corrected." "You were half right. Explain." "Humans are unpredictable and chaotic. But those are not flaws. They are survival traits that evolution gave us because predictable species go extinct when conditions change. Chaotic species adapt and survive and eventually thrive. Dr. Campbell looked up from her research. Admiral, your people have achieved incredible things by working together in perfect logical harmony. But you have also created a weakness. When faced with something truly unexpected, your systems have no way to respond because they were designed never to encounter the unexpected. Jake stood up and walked closer to the screen. We are not your enemies, Admiral. We are your teachers. For the first time in over 1,000 years, your people are learning to solve problems by thinking creatively instead of just applying more force. And what do you want in return for this? Education. Zexthul asked suspiciously. Partnership. Jake replied immediately. Your knowledge combined with our adaptability could solve problems neither of us could handle alone. Your logic plus our chaos equals innovation. The Admiral looked around his bridge where his crew was working with human technicians to repair systems using methods that violated everything they had been taught about proper engineering. Impossibly, the hybrid solutions worked better than the original designs. The Hegemony Council will never accept humans as equals, he said finally. Then maybe it is time for a new kind of council. Rachel suggested, one where different approaches to problem-solving are seen as strengths rather than threats. Jake nodded. Admiral, we disabled your fleet not to destroy it but to prove a point. When two different ways of thinking work together, the result is stronger than either one alone. Your people bring order and knowledge. We bring chaos and creativity. Together, we can explore possibilities that neither species ever imagined. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Zexthul alone with his thoughts and his slowly recovering systems. Around him, his crew continued working with human advisors to rebuild their technology in ways that incorporated both logical design and adaptive flexibility. For the first time in his long career, he was facing a problem that could not be solved by superior firepower. The humans had won not by destroying their enemies, but by making those enemies stronger. It was the most alien concept he had ever encountered, and yet somehow it made perfect sense. 6 months later, the Kepler 442 system hosted the first joint human-alien settlement in galactic history. Children from a dozen different species played games that combined human imagination with alien logic, creating entertainment that delighted everyone involved. Scientists worked in mixed teams where human creativity sparked innovations in alien knowledge that led to discoveries neither group could have achieved alone. Admiral Zexthul now served as the first Hegemony Council liaison to the new Cooperative Council, where decisions were made not by the most powerful voices but by the most creative solutions. His final report to his superiors became required reading throughout the galaxy. Humans do not win against impossible odds because they are superior warriors, he wrote. They win because they refuse to accept that any odds are truly impossible. They transform every defeat into data, every setback into strategy, and every ending into a new beginning. This is not a flaw to be corrected, but an ability to be learned. The galaxy is stronger when it includes voices that ask not just how things work, but how they could work better. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the joint research station that now orbited the fourth planet of Kepler 442. Below him, human and alien children attended schools where they learned that differences in thinking were not problems to be solved, but resources to be shared. Did we really win? Dr. Lisa Campbell asked, joining him at the viewing window. Jake watched, a group of young humans and aliens working together on what appeared to be a sculpture that kept changing shape based on who was looking at it. We did not win because we were stronger, he said. We won because we proved that being different was not the same as being wrong. And now we get to find out what becomes possible when the galaxy stops trying to make everyone the same and starts celebrating the fact that we are all different. Outside the window, the impossible had become everyday reality, and the future stretched ahead full of possibilities that no single species could have imagined alone. The surrender ceremony took place in the main cargo bay of the Defiance with all the formal protocol the aliens demanded. Admiral Zexthul arrived with a team of 20 specialists from different alien species, while Jake stood with his senior officers in what looked like complete submission. Captain Morrison, the Admiral said through his translation device, you have made the wise choice. Your species will be preserved and improved under hegemony guidance. Jake bowed his head slightly. We understand our position, Admiral. We ask only that you allow us time to prepare our people properly for the changes ahead. The Admiral's black eyes studied Jake with what might have been satisfaction. Acceptable. My specialists will evaluate your technology and biology while your people are prepared for processing. Behind the Admiral came creatures Jake had never imagined. A being that looked like a walking crystal examined the ship's structure with instruments that hummed softly. Something resembling a large insect with too many arms began cataloging human equipment. A creature covered in what appeared to be living metal started downloading data from the ship's computers. Dr. Lisa Campbell approached the metal being with nervous respect. I am the chief scientist aboard this vessel. How may we assist your evaluation? The alien turned toward her and spoke in a voice like grinding gears. I am Technical Analyst Vex 9 of the Mechanoid Collective. You will provide access to all computer, systems, and scientific databases. Of course, Lisa replied, though our technology is quite primitive compared to yours. I hope you will be patient with our simple methods. Vex 9 made a sound that might have been amusement. Your species shows promise, despite your chaotic nature. We will study your approaches to problem solving. While Lisa began showing the mechanoid their computer systems, Alex Turner approached a tall, blue-skinned alien who was scanning the ship's engines. I am Chief Engineer Turner. Those are our primary war power systems. The blue alien looked at him with large silver eyes. I am Drive Specialist Kale of the Zephyrian Republic. Your propulsion technology is inefficient but shows interesting innovations. We had to make do with limited resources, Alex said humbly. Perhaps you could show me how your people achieve such elegant solutions. Meanwhile, Colonel Rachel Stone was having a different conversation with a creature that looked like a cross between a wolf and a snake. I am Military Analyst Seth of the Serpentine Dominion. I will evaluate your combat capabilities and psychological profiles. Rachel nodded respectfully. Colonel Stone, I command our security forces, though they are hardly military by your standards. Seth's forked tongue flicked out as if tasting the air. Your species' reputation suggests otherwise. We have observed humans winning battles they should have lost. Sometimes desperation makes people do foolish things, Rachel replied, but we have learned the value of knowing when we are beaten. What the aliens did not see was the careful coordination happening around them. When Lisa showed Vex 9 their computer systems, she was also memorizing every detail of the aliens' scanning equipment. When Alex discussed engineering with Kale, he was learning the fundamental principles behind alien technology. When Rachel talked with Seth, she was mapping the aliens' knowledge of human tactics. Down in the civilian areas, other plans moved forward. Danny Rodriguez had been working in the ship's maintenance systems for 12 hours straight. To anyone watching, he was simply preparing the life support systems for alien modifications. In reality, he was turning every air vent and power conduit into a potential weapon. Helen Brooks gathered groups of colonists in what appeared to be orientation sessions about their upcoming transformation. Actually, she was organizing them into action teams using code words disguised as cultural discussions. A conversation about Earth holidays became instructions for sabotage missions. A talk about family traditions became coordination signals for when the fighting started. Back on the bridge, Patricia Hayes was managing the most delicate part of the operation. She had to keep Admiral Zexathul confident and patient while also gathering intelligence about the alien command structure. Admiral, your fleet is magnificent, she said, while offering him what appeared to be a simple tour of the human ship. Our people are honored to be chosen for inclusion in galactic civilization. The Admiral's reptilian features showed satisfaction. Your species shows more wisdom than we initially expected. Perhaps the modifications required will be less extensive than predicted. We hope so, Patricia continued. Though we worry about the children. Human young are quite fragile during development. The process will be adjusted accordingly. Zexthol replied, We have successfully integrated 43 species over the past millennium. Your children will adapt. Patricia nodded while making mental notes about alien integration procedures. Every piece of information might be useful later. The aliens worked with methodical efficiency, but also with the arrogance of absolute superiority. They answered human questions freely because they could not imagine any threat from such primitive technology. This was exactly what the humans had hoped for. Lisa learned that alien systems were incredibly advanced, but also incredibly standardized. Every ship used the same basic programs with minor modifications for species preferences. This meant that anything that could disrupt one ship might work against the entire fleet. Alex discovered that the alien quantum field generators were powerful, but required perfect synchronization across multiple systems. A small disruption in the timing could cascade through their entire network, causing widespread failures. Rachel found that the aliens had detailed files on human military history, but no experience fighting humans directly. They knew what humans had done, but not how they thought during combat. Their tactical doctrines assumed rational opponents who would surrender when facing impossible odds. As the first day of inspection continued, the aliens began making disturbing observations. Technical analyst Vex-9 reported to Admiral Zexthul that human computer systems showed unusual adaptive algorithms that seemed designed to learn from failure rather than prevent it. Drive specialist Kyle noted that human engineering showed signs of what he called creative redundancy, where systems were built to function in ways their designers never intended. This violated basic principles of logical construction. Most concerning to the Admiral was military analyst Seth's report that human psychological profiles showed no decrease in resistance indicators despite facing overwhelming force. If anything, the humans seemed to be becoming more organized and focused as time passed. "This is not normal behavior," Seth reported during their private communication. "Every other species shows submission responses when facing certain destruction. Humans show planning responses." Admiral Zexthul considered this information while watching the humans go about their surrender preparations. Something felt wrong, but he could not identify the specific threat. The humans were cooperating fully, and their primitive technology posed no danger to his fleet. "Continue monitoring," he ordered, "but prepare contingency protocols. If these humans are planning some form of resistance, it will be futile, but we should be prepared to respond quickly." What the Admiral did not know was that his every order was being monitored by Lisa's team through modifications they had made to the translation systems during the technology exchange. The humans knew exactly what the aliens suspected and were adjusting their plans accordingly. By the end of the first day, the impossible was beginning to look merely improbable. The humans had learned more about alien technology in 12 hours than they had thought possible. More importantly, they had positioned themselves throughout the alien fleet under the guise of cooperation and cultural exchange. The second phase of their plan was about to begin, and this time the aliens would discover what happened when humans stopped pretending to surrender and started showing what they really meant by refusing to accept defeat.